Incredible evening, everyone. All right, so let me just do something over here. How are you guys doing? All right. All right, so that's done. And then let me go over to Facebook and change my privacy on here so I can see your comments coming from Facebook. All right, there we go. Oh, wait. Why does Facebook always do that to me? Makes me look crazy. I knew I should have just did a thumbnail, but I was trying to hurry up and sneak this in for the couple minutes I have before we eat dinner, because it's still cooking. So we're even still preparing dinner. So I was trying to get this in, but I definitely should have put a thumbnail because Facebook has me looking crazy. All right, let me go ahead and hit share. Let's talk about the Eco Solvent Printing trend. Alrighty, select all, copy, post, share again, share to a group, paste. Ooh, dang it. I didn't mean to share it to Wifey Made Custom because they're not really I don't know if they're all inclusive for all types of crafting. So not sure if I could share it there, but hey, it's there, it's gone now. All right, and if you have groups that it's able to be shared to, go ahead and hit share. If you are a group owner or you know a group that you can share in, go ahead and hit share. All right. So let's get into this, okay? Incredible evening, everyone. I am Shakia, the professor of Soloholics Anonymous, HS Inc. 365 LLC, the product line Honestly Speaking, and the Academy 365 Creative Academy, which is where I teach creative entrepreneurs and just those who want to learn more about silhouette or sublimation and different types of creative or crafty things. I use that academy to go a little bit more in depth than what we do here on my social media platforms to teach you guys about a wide variety of things. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's on the floor. I was gonna say, dang it, what happened to my Eco Solvent Ink so that I can have it for my demonstration? Hold on. All right. Okay, so this I've gotten several questions about it. I mean, more now than even when I got my Roland, which is a true Eco Solvent printer. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on what it is in the traditional sense, and then how people are basically doing a Eco Solvent like hack, if you will. So Eco Solvent is another way to like print directly to vinyls. Well, it's the only way to really print direct. Well, I'm not gonna say because you can sub to glitter vinyl. But as far as printing on just regular, like an HTV, so you can't do it to just your regular Caesar or any HTV. It does have to be the one that's a printable one. So there's quite a few of like actual printable vinyls, like the color print, subly thin, quite a few of them. And then also for adhesive vinyl, I've printed with my Roland, not with a converted printer. On my Roland, I've printed to 651, 631 clear and white. This is Orajet, which is a thinner printable vinyl. You do have to have an actual Eco Solvent printer or solvent or latex printer to be able to print to vinyl. But for shirts and things like that, that's where it's trending for the converted printers. The solvent ink is very, very, the smell on that. You have to have in a well ventilated area. It's like these, it's all, oh, well, it's normally like really big printers. It's not a desktop printer for that. Eco Solvent is like the real Eco Solvent. It's just that it's biodegradable. It's not as harsh as solvents. If you were ever to put solvent inks like in a regular Epson printer, you would basically deteriorate everything in there. It will eat through the regular tubings. It will destroy your print head. So there is Eco Solvent ink, but the ones that comes like with the Roland, it's a different type. Now they have one that's like a water-based one, which people are putting in regular printers. But there's latex, solvent, and then Eco Solvent is just a biodegradable version of the solvent ink, and it's less harsh and less harmful for the environment. But it does require more heat because of the way that it's made. That's it requires heat to really set this in. So on my Roland, when it's setting up, it's getting the ink and stuff ready, but it's also heating up the heater on it because especially for Eco Solvent, not as much in latex, but these require heat. That's why it really will run. One of the reasons why it will run on other than the fact that it's water based, but one reason why it will run on when you're printing it to vinyl. So for the first part of this, if you're looking to use Eco Solvent ink for decals, no ma'am, no ham, you're going to be using regular sticker paper, and that sticker paper can be used with a lot of times pigment ink, dye ink, any type of inkjet printer. You are not creating decals just because you're printing it with your Eco Solvent. It's really not going to last any longer than if you used dye inks or pigment inks. And pigment inks are waterproof, so those really will not fade. If the paper is not waterproof and you use dye ink, it can run, but it's really no different than printing from your regular printer with how a lot of you guys are doing stickers or decals, because that is just regular sticker paper that works with any inkjet printer. It's not to make these. That's like the one thing I wanted to definitely start off with, that it's not for decals. Okay. But what you can use it for would be heat transfer vinyl and printing to like the color print, the subly thin, and things like that. So people are using it as a way to put designs on colored garments or cotton garments. It is no different as far as the process from doing transfers on Jet Pro 3G. It really doesn't have, touching it, it's a little bit different from the color print versus Jet Pro 3G, but for the most part, it's no different. If you end up having a really big design like this, it's going to feel hot under there, whether it is Jet Pro or it's a big old piece of vinyl, because vinyl is still kind of like a plastic and you're covering up the fibers of the shirt. So it's no longer breathable in that area. So as far as how it works, it's not a better material. It's not a better option than doing this. That's why for me, I never got into like Eco Solvent for shirts. You guys have seen me use my roll-in. I wanted it to be able to print decals and to be able to print the prints for my yard signs. That's what I got my roll-in for. I spent 3 years going to an outside printer to print it, and I do during graduation season for other stuff. I do quite well with promoting and selling yard signs. So after 3 years of outsourcing it, I decided to get a roll-in. That way I can just do my prints in-house myself. But I don't have a desire to do shirts with them really. So Jet Pro 3G, or if you're doing a shirt with sublimation, no different than pressing your sub print to glitter HTV or glow in the dark HTV or easy subli. They all are basically the same. Or what's the other one? Forever Subliflex 202. All the same. Okay. What is appealing, I guess, to it is when it comes to glitter vinyl, glow in the dark, or even easy subli, because easy subli doesn't really take well to the water-based inks, which the ink inside of Epson printers, when we're putting in there the ones that we sell and whatnot, this is a water-based ink. Inside of a Sawgrass, it's a gel-based ink. So it sticks to the Easy Subli a little bit different than the water-based one. And that's what it was designed for. Easy Subli was designed for the Sawgrass, not necessarily for Epson printers, but we are able to use them. Most people, when they're printing directly to it, because it's water-based, it'll run, or when you'll get the pizza wheels, when you go to put it in your Cameo, it's like getting streaks and all of that. So what you end up having to do is the same way that you would do glitter HTV or glow in the dark. You cut it first, and then you put it on your garment, tack it down, put your sub print on top, press that. Well, some people were having difficulty getting it to line up. And for the most part, assume that if you're able to print it and then cut it, you don't have to worry about getting it to line up. But if your print cuts are not ideal, you're still going to have white line, which is no different than doing sublimation to glitter HTV or glow in the dark. It's just a different set of steps, but essentially it does the same thing. So with the Eco Solvent one, you can put it right through your printer and then put it on your Cameo or your Cricut if you're going to print the smaller size, and do a print and cut and have your transfer. The difference between Jet Pro and using a printable transfer like Caesar Easy Print or Stahl's Cat Cut, because Stahl's also has a printable heat transfer vinyl as well. It's actually a couple other companies too, but most people default to Caesar. Caesar's like one of the top names that you think of when it comes to heat transfer vinyl, but there are other brands that have printable, like actual HTV. With the Jet Pro 3G, which is basically just a printable transfer for darks, or you can get Jolie for darks. What's the other one? Avery for darks. Home Depot. Office Depot has a version of it. Pen and Gear has a version. It's just a transfer for darks. It's opaque. So it's a solid white, and you can put it on white shirts or colored shirts. This is Jet Pro 3G. And even down here, this is not colored vinyl. It's the same colors that's here, but I used basically a transfer to pick it up. I used heat tape for mine. Some people are able to get the same transfer that you would use for printable vinyl. They would get that one, and they're able to somewhat pick it up. But I just used heat tape for mine when I did this. But this right here, even with it broken up, this is Jet Pro 3G. As you can see, this was from 2019. I have worn this quite a few times, and the color has never, ever changed. The difference between this and like regular vinyl will be like once you wash it, I'm not sure if you can see in here, gets kind of like wrinkle-like. You don't really get as like that much of that when it comes to the regular vinyl. And then with picking this up, Even though you put the transfer on there, you got to turn it over. You got to, because it's pressure sensitive, you have to release the pressure to get it to really stick. Whereas with the printable vinyl, you put the masking on top, kind of squeegee that thing down real good, and it will easily pick up. You don't lose ink like on parts of this where it was just stuck to it. I lost a little bit of the ink. This was done with pigment ink on my Epson pigment ink printer. So you don't really get things like little imperfections like that when you're doing Eco Solvent, and it picks up a lot easier. But for me, the reason why I never got into it and never had a desire for shirts is because I never had an issue with these shirts. I've sold so many of these, and my clients have never had an issue with this because it's still a full color print, no less vibrant. This is from 2019. This my niece turned 8 this year, so this is 2 years old. And the colors, if you've seen when I made this, I was live when I did this one. The colors have not changed in any way, shape, or form. So it's not something like it's this, it's this great new trend. It's going to change your business and change the way you make shirts. If you've done Jet Pro 3G shirts, you've essentially done Eco Solvent. It's just a lot faster to transfer than with the Jet Pro 3G or any printable transfers for darks. And if you are doing sublimation, if you're using sublimation to glitter, HTV, or glow in the dark, it's just eliminating the step of cutting it, pressing it, and then trying to line up your print, either doing it through a print and cut or cutting it by hand and things like that. So it just makes it just a few steps faster, few seconds, few minutes faster than some of the other ways of doing it. All right. So in a nutshell, that's what people are using it for, more so for shirts, because you cannot use it for vinyl at all. You would have to simply use sticker paper. Okay. So that's all that is. Or if it looks more like this one, this is the Eco Solvent one. This is printed with my Epson. Looks basically the same. I mean, this is a frosted one instead of white. That's the only difference, but for the most part, basically the same. All right. What the heck was that? Oh, my cord. All right, so that's that. Let's see. I'm going to talk about what printers in a moment. Mitchie says it should be interesting. And incredible evening, incredible evening, incredible evening. Hey, Huns. Hello, hello, hello. Incredible evening. Hello, 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 hello. All right. May I ask where you get your Eco Solvent ink from? I don't. Like, for me, I have a roll-in, so I don't purchase it from anyone other than getting the actual Eco Solvent, like getting their ink, the Eco Sol ink or ink salt, whatever it's called. But as far as those who are converting it, HS Ink will have some. I had some before. I've done this like maybe when we first got our inks. I end up ordering Eco Solvent ink. Now, for some reason, I can't find the other bottles. The only ones I can find is this yellow one. I can't find the rest of them because I would have put it in a printer just to show you guys that it's really no different from one to the other. But I do have some more on the way with our next ink order and our chip resetters, and we are restocking on our 812 chips and all of that and cartridges. So we do have some on the way to where I can put it in a printer. Notice I said a printer because I'm going to explain that and break that down. But let's now talk about the inks real quick. Oh, but in the meantime, if you're wanting it right now before we sell it, now we probably won't have it. We're not going to have it anytime soon. What I'm getting in is more so the sample ones because I'm going to test it on a couple different printers and send some samples to others who are wanting to get into this. And then eventually, we will carry it. But Eco Rush, I think it's on Etsy, and I forget the other one. I cannot vouch for any of those. I've seen it in groups. Some people say one brand ruined their printer. Somebody said, this one did this one, the colors didn't. I can't vouch for any of them. You can join those groups to find out all this. I just know that one of them is Eco Rush. There's a young lady on TikTok that talks very highly of that. There's Ink Pro today, Inks 2 Pro, something like that. And I forget the name of the other one. I've heard bad and good reviews for all of those inks. A lot of them has to do with how it's shipped and ink bursting, which I am so very grateful for my ink vendor, because I wanted to try and keep everything consistent and have it in these type bottles. And he was like, nope, because it's not made for that. The way that it's like in the bottle and the way that it releases, it would surely leak out of anything that's an eco tank bottle. So when we do have them, they will not come with a top for eco tanks, because these are not ideal for this. This is a totally, like, this bottle is much stiffer than the other ones. So you will have to use the tops from whichever eco tank printer you are using, or whatever printer you're using to put this in. They will come in a bottle like this, just of course with our label on it, because this is the proper bottle. These are not. When they're coming in the bottles like this or like this, these are not the proper bottles, and just the way it expands, you end up with the hotmess.com when it's shipping. So yeah. I'm literally doing this right now with sticker paper. So you're just basically, you could have done that with a regular printer as well. There's nothing special about using Eco Solvent ink on sticker paper. I just purchased equipment this week to convert to water-based Eco Solvent. Okay. Jet Pro is just a printable transfer for darks, and you put it like for cotton shirts and for dark colors. But I use it, as you saw, on white shirts. I can't stand the printable transfers for lights. Hello, Shayna. Hey, Jesse. Hey, Jesse. Can I use Eco Solvent ink with 3G opaque or pigment ink? Yeah. So you can use Jet Pro 3G will take any ink. It'll take dye ink. It'll take pigment ink. It'll take Sublimation ink. It'll take Eco Solvent ink. It takes any ink. Do I have any experience with Subliflock? No, I don't. So I'm about to talk about printers. So there's really no big advantage to using Eco Solvent unless you're creating banners or signs with an actual Eco Solvent printer. You cannot create banners or signs with a converted printer. Let's see. Hello. Okay. Awesome. Yes, so we will begin to sell it after I go through my extensive testing process. I don't just put anything out there. We test a lot of different things. Okay. So let's talk about printers, right? Of course, whenever we're thinking about converting, people think, okay, you can only convert Epson printers because of sublimation. Well, with sublimation, it has to be an Epson printer, or if Brother comes out with a Eco Tank or just a tank, a cartridgeless printer, you can use the Brother printer because those usually are heat-free as well. It's just that no one really makes ink that is compatible to their color profile. And they're more so dye-based printers than pigment ink printers. And they're all cartridge based, and they don't really sell refillables. Most time you get those, it's like a remanufactured, or it's like pre-filled with ink for the Brother ones. It's not one that you can just kind of refill yourself. But the way like inks are, I went to the garage, I forgot, but wrong one. Hold on. Oh gosh. It's right here. So I'm not sure if you can see how bright that is, but that is yellow pigment ink. I know it's like barely there, but you can see the fact that like that is not like it looks yellow and it's bright. That's pigment ink. I'll show you it in the cartridge compared to the bottle. This is sublimation ink. It's still opaque, like it's pigmented. That's not opaque. It's because ink is still translucent, but it's pigmented. Like it looks like a mustard yellow. There are some sub inks that look this bright yellow, but it also, for a lot of times with those, it also produces more of an orangish color for yellow than a true yellow color. But this is sublimation. This is what pigment ink looks like, right? So dye ink looks like this. If I show you the magenta one, whoa, it looks like this. You see how dark that is? The cyan looks the same way. But when you're thinking about like talking about pigment and sublimation, they look like this. Very big difference in the color. So see that, and then this. Eco Solvent, water-based Eco Solvent ink is very, very dark. If I hold it up to the light, I can somewhat see the yellow, but it is still very dark. It's not quite, this looks like orange food coloring or like a reddish food coloring. This is very, very dark. Okay. So technically none of the, like the way printers work, the way it mixes the ink to produces the colors from here to here, like it's like how in the heck do these produce the same colors? It's based off of the printer. If you use a Eco Tank printer for sublimation, you'll notice that there's a difference in color. If you haven't seen my picture of my puzzle, I show that there is a very big difference in color when you're printing from an Eco Tank printer with sublimation ink compared to a pigment ink printer. Sublimation ink is made more so to match a pigment ink profile because it damn near looks like pigment ink compared to this. This is the type of ink you use in your Eco Tank printers. So when you're using this, now when I put this in my Epson 7720 a year and a half ago, I couldn't stand the colors. They were off to me. Everything looks muted. It looks washed out. And maybe it's just my standard of how I like for things to look. But every time when I put this in the pigment ink printer, it looked washed out. So I have never tested it in a dye-based printer, which is why I'm waiting for it to come in. I'm going to put it in an Epson dye-based printer as well as a Canon. This doesn't have requirements like heat-free and all of that. This is basically just like regular ink. It actually will probably be okay with heat because, like I said, my Roland uses heat. So I plan to first put it in I have an extra Canon. When I get mine, I'm not putting it in the Epson printer. I'm putting it in a Canon printer to show that you can use it with any printer. This isn't the type of conversion where it has to be an Epson printer because heat does not matter for this. You actually want heat to set this. Eco Solvent ink requires heat because it's biodegradable, unlike some of its other counterparts like solvent and latex. This requires heat. So for me, I personally, when I'm talking about it and when I'm going through it, when we're selling it, I'm not going to recommend it for a 7820, a 7840, a 7710, 72. It's just off of my experience. Will I be testing it again? No, I will not be putting it in another one of my pigment ink printers. I've asked others. I've seen others print, and then for me, I'm like, them colors just don't look right to me. But hey, if they're okay with it, they're okay with it. When we sell it, I will not be recommending that you put it in any pigment ink printer. That's pretty much most of the workforces. I'm going to recommend it for any dye-based type printer. And that's just because of my knowledge of how inks work. And the fact that this is too different to put into a pigment ink one. And every time I've done it, the colors have been muted and washed out like skin tones. They don't look like your skin looks the way it does because like it's like blood rushing through it. To me, it's like there's like no, the way I can think of it is like there's like looking at a face that's very pale. So when I say washed out, like for faces, I feel like they look pale. Blues don't look the right blue that it's supposed to look. So it's not up to my standard. So it might work for others. For me, to me, the colors are nowhere near. They look blues, but they're not really like the blue. Again, that is me. But that's the difference in that. And to answer the question, does it have to be an Epson printer? No, it does not, because it is not like sublimation where you have to avoid heat. So somebody asked me, so can someone ask? I think someone says that's one they use. You can, but when it comes to us on our website, it will not have a recommendation for the pigment ink printers, only because of what I know, the science of inks. We will never recommend it. Now, if you choose to put it in any of those printers, by all means, have at it. Do you? We just will not be recommending that you put it in a pigment ink printer. Pigment ink is just for regular prints. So it's what I use to print invitations, stickers, things like that. Pigment ink, as far as the difference between pigment and dye, is pigment ink is waterproof. If it gets wet, it will not run. Dye ink, of course, is like your regular traditional old school ink. You know, you go and you print, you type out of your term paper, your book report, and it gets wet and it runs. That's what dye ink does. Pigment ink does not do that. It is waterproof. Dye-based printers are all of the Eco tanks except for the 16600, 16650. So they're all the printers that use the ink that looks like this. Every single, the 15,000, 8500, 8550, they all use this. If your Epson printer does not have Durabright, it's basically a dye-based printer. Durabright Ultra is the pigment ink. If you look at like a Canon and you're in the store and it doesn't look like a yellow, it looks more like an orangish color when you're looking at like the ink on there, that's a dye-based printer. So that's how you know, by the ink color. Pigment ink looks pigmented, like it'll be the actual color. Dye looks dark. And if it's yellow, it looks orangish, or like I call it like food coloring. Any dye-based printer will work. A 15,000 is a dye-based printer. They say ink sol bleeds if you spray perfume. I have no idea. I don't know why we're spraying perfume, so I don't know anything about that. So yeah. A 7610 is no different than, it's basically the non all-in-one version of the 7720 and 77. Again, printers like that with the 252 cartridges, I personally would not be recommending that you convert those, but that is totally up to you. Will it print out the ink? Yes. Now, how you feel about the colors, that's on you. I just never had great results with that. I forget, it was the one that was 179, but any Canon. I mean, it's an Eco tank. So when I went in there, I saw they had a Canon Eco tank. Now, I won't be using anything that uses cartridges because I'm not about to carry cartridges. But Canon has an Eco tank. It's not the new one that uses pigment. So Canon now has a printer. It's like a big white one, and it uses pigment ink, because you'll see the bottle, the yellow looks yellow. That's how you can tell the difference. It's one of the ones, I want to say it's something with the P on it. But I don't remember exactly which one was like 179. And it is a standard printer. It's an 8.5-inch wide printer. It's not a wide format printer at all. What's a good printer for party favors? To be honest, I really want to try the 8550. Although it's a dye-based printer, because it is a photo printer, the colors will be really, really good because it is a photo printer. And dye-based printers actually are better for photographs because it gives you a higher color gamut. It's expensive as all outdoors, but I do kind of want to try that. For me, it's either going to be that one, or I'm always going to do a pigment ink printer. I have great results with the pigment ink printer. I like the fact that the ink is waterproof. So that would be any of the workforces, your 7820s, 7840s, the old school ones, if you can find them, 7710, 7720. If you want an eco tank and you're willing to pay $1,000, you get the 16600 or 16650. Those are all pigment ink printers. So that answers your question too. Can you put pigment ink in an eco tank? Yes, but your colors are going to be off. I did a video on that. You can put it in there, but that's not a true pigment ink printer. Pigment ink printers are pigment ink, and you'll know that they're pigment ink. So what printer will work for it? A printer that comes with pigment ink in the box. So if you have dye ink in an Epson Eco Tank printer, can you put pigment ink in that printer once the dye ink is gone? No. Do you print on a specific kind of paper for shirt transfers? For the Eco Solvent printer, you can use Jet Pro 3G if you want. So you can go back and watch the beginning of this. I talked about all the different transfers. I'm trying to rush now because I hear my family at the table and Zani Mani will eat without me. But for the Eco Solvent ones, you use a printable HTV. So most popular, of course, is Caesar color print, but then it's like the subly thin. So if you saw my video, I'll talk about it, in from the perspective of converting a printer, but it's no different than when I did anything I talk about from printing from my Roland. So when I did those jerseys and I used I used the color print, but because that was polyester, the dye bled through and I had to use subly thin, it's going to be the same thing with the converted printers. If you're just doing regular ones, you don't want to get that. I mean, again, it's really no major advantage other than being able to mask it and lift it off. It's no advantage, no real advantage over this. This is Jet Pro 3G. So it's not a paper, you use vinyl. It's not a paper, you use a vinyl. Yes, that one. So it all depends on what size. So the printers that people are using are the exact same printers for sublimation. Now, like I said, Canon has one that's $179 and it's an 8.5-inch wide printer instead of paying $199 like the Epson one. So you'll save $20 if you get the Canon one, and that's 8.5. If you want to print wider, like 11 by 17, print 12 inches because you're going to do print and cuts with the Cameo, then you will have to get the wide format ones, which is $700. Yes, Pa, I'm coming. Yes, EE. Okay, I'm coming. What is that you're eating? What's that? Oh, Oreo. Then you'll have to get like your 8550, your really your 8550, because I won't be recommending the 16600 because that's a pigment ink printer. So it's your 15,000, which is really hard to find. I really think they're phasing those out, or the 8550. Yes, my love. Okay. Go out. Mommy's coming. Yes, exactly. 15,000s are really, really hard to find. The 15,000 is a dye-based printer. The 16600, 1650 is a pigment ink printer. That's really the only difference. You can purchase the Jet Pro 3G from pretty much anywhere. Just kind of search it. They have some on Amazon. I get all of mine from Florida Flexible or Florida Flex. You guys saw me go to their shop and they do ship out. So I get all of mine from, close the door real quick, MJ. I get all of mine from Florida Flex, but their Brilliant Vinyl has some, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I definitely know there's some on Amazon. So it's also Nina or something like that. But it's Jet Pro 3G Opaque, or I might just say Jet Opaque, Jet 3G Opaque Pro, but they're all the same. It's just looking for principal transfers for darks. Now, when you cut, though, the other difference between them is with the vinyl, it doesn't tear as easy. Like, it's a vinyl. It's just like cutting your regular heat transfer vinyl when you're weeding it. Now with the Jet Pro, you got to be real careful with that. You pull that too much before its heated state, it's very, very thin and you can easily rip it. So be careful with that. That's the other advantage of using heat transfer vinyl over Jet Pro. No, 8550 is an Epson printer. Any Canon will work, love. Any Canon printer, just go to the store or just search for Canon printers. Any Canon Eco Tank printer will work. I love it, but you have to be careful with it. The Jet Pro 3G, yes, you do, because it will rip. What it looks like regular. Hold on, I have some prints that are. I'm coming, y'all. I'm coming. So here is one. This is not cut. But Jet Pro 3G opaque. That's what it looks like. That's what the name says. This is what it looks like on the back. And this is that. This one is printed with, I don't know. I did a whole live video. I was showing the difference between Sublimation ink and pigment ink. I want to say this was pigment ink. I don't even remember, but yeah, that's that. Oh, dang it. I thought that was the one that was cut. Hold on. All right. So I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to rush because my family's trying to eat. Zanimon is in there fussing because it's time to eat. So this one, this is what happened. This one was printed with Sublimation ink. It does not last long. So this is the Sublimation ink one, and this is what happens to it. These are pigment ink ones, and no change. And this was almost 2 years ago because this is before the pandemic. And so this is that one with Sublimation ink. It looks crazy now. I don't really care. I don't ever use Sublimation ink on it. I always only use pigment ink. But with this, like when you're peeling it, like she said, you have to be careful. See, it will rip. The vinyl will not. So that's something, you just have to be very careful when you're weeding this. All right. So let me go. So there is no real mask for it. I use heat tape. And once you put it on, like it's a whole process. That's another thing. Like I said, people like the Eco Solvent because it is easier to mask. I use heat tape. And that's one reason why I like wide heat tape. So I put it over it, and you do have to so when you're wanting to do this, once you weed it, like you have to cut it, do the print and cut, you have to weed it. And then around the edge, you have to kind of lift it and pre-release it, like all of your edges, pre-release it from the backing because it's pressure sensitive. So once you do that and you put the transfer on top, you'll be able to remove it easier, but you still have to be careful because it can wrinkle and all that stuff. But it takes work to transfer this, but I have done it. Like I said, that is how this shirt was done. This was heat tape. And I think I did. So this stayed together. I think I did that with the heat tape too. I'm not sure if I did it individually, but this was done with heat tape. Let's see. Yes, you can convert the 8550. We will not carry the gray ink. The 8550 actually works without the gray ink. Our ink vendor doesn't really have it. He's like, it doesn't really make a big difference. It doesn't mess up the printer if you don't put anything in the gray ink reservoir ever. Even for sublimation, you don't really need the gray ink. As long as you put ink in the 2 black ones and all the other ones, you don't need the gray because it really doesn't affect it at all anyway, because there's no such thing as gray. So there's really no gray, unless you're doing black and white, it makes a difference. But for regular colors, it doesn't help it at all. Neither one is better. They basically do the same thing. It's just that Eco Solvent allows you to actually print to actual vinyl. You cannot do it with pigment ink. But to me, there is no major advantage over it. You can use your Eco Solvent. If you want to print chip bags with your Eco Solvent ink, it is regular ink. You can. Now, should apply some heat to it to really set it in. But technically, it's like regular ink. You can print on sticker paper. You can print on other stuff with it. It's no real major advantage other than being able to print to printable HTV. That's it. Pigment ink is for all of your regular prints. Is what if you look at my Instagram, go back to my content. I do large cutouts. I do invitations. I do stickers. I do banners, all types of stuff from my pigment ink printer. No printer in the store comes with Eco Solvent. You are always having to convert. Whenever you're doing these are hacks. All the printers that you're going to find in store are going to come with pigment ink or dye ink. No printer comes with sub ink. No printer comes with Eco Solvent ink. You're going to have to purchase that from a third party. Epson does not sell Eco Solvent printers. Epson does not sell small format sublimation printers. Canon does not sell Eco Solvent printers in store. They do not sell sublimation printers in store. Well, duh, because they use thermal. So all of these are hacks. The meaning of convert. People always say, oh, get an Eco tank. You don't have to convert it. You're still converting it. You are changing the ink that comes in the bottle, the thing. You're switching it out and using a different ink. You're using a different ink than it was intended to be used for. Therefore, you are converting it. They don't have one. All right, so I got to go. Go back and watch it. I talked about that. They don't have a wide format one. That's an Eco Tank. That's a tank printer. Eco Tank is a name. It's like Super Tank and all that. I think theirs might be called a Super Tank, but Eco Tank is really an Epson word, but a cartridgeless one. Canon only has the one that's a small format. They don't have a large format Eco Tank printer. All right, so I got to go. My family's at the table. Love y'all. Until next time, have a great one. Visit our site for all of your sublimation needs. We sell the best sublimation paper. We have wholesale prices. You can buy it by the case, you can buy it by the packs, and get more bang for your buck and make more profit as you sell things. So visit our website, shop.hsink365.com. Again, that is shop.hsink365.com for all of your sublimation and pigment ink needs, because we do sell pigment ink for the Epson printers. We sell cartridges and syringes and needles and sublimation ink and the best sublimation paper that allows you to sublimate as low as 365 degrees, as fast as 30 seconds. No cover sheet, whether it's butcher paper, parchment paper, craft paper required. I don't lint brush a darn thing because I don't get those blue squigglies. I don't have to put paper on the inside. Our paper is absolutely amazing. You get great colors just using plain paper setting. Don't have to use premium matte. This is printed with plain paper. Well, that side is kind of messed up, but plain paper setting, amazing colors. Check us out, shop.hsink365.com. All right, y'all, I got to go to dinner. Until next time, have a great one. Continue to unlock your creativity and be incredible. Peace.